across 5 major stories today. The difference between a routine legal maneuver, a diplomatic summit, and a constitutional crisis often comes down entirely to which homepage you happen to be reading. This is Parallax Newsroom. The Trump administration formally asked the Supreme Court to permit an order restricting mail-in voting to take effect before the upcoming midterms. MSNBC framed this as a straightforward administrative request, noting Trump simply asks the court to allow the order in time for midterms. The Associated Press took a middle ground, reporting that the administration urges the court to allow an order targeting mail-in voting. The Washington Times highlighted a procedural court panel declined to block the order, though noting its ultimate midterm status remains unclear. In our read, MSNBC sidestepped the restrictive nature of the policy, while the Associated Press provided the most neutral framing of the legal action. And the Washington Times focused narrowly on procedural momentum while leaving the broader voting rights stakes for the electorate largely unexplored. Anthony Fauci's journal entries detailing his experiences with both the Trump and Biden White Houses during the pandemic were released to Congress. NBC News leaned into the institutional history, noting the journal reveals how both administrations handled their COVID cases. The Hill focused on a former Trump health official's reaction, expressing shock over what they termed Fauci's unabashed narcissism. Fox News promoted the documents as unveiling Fauci's thoughts on lab leak debates and testing failures. Breitbart went further, highlighting Fauci's purported belief that attacks on him were a right-wing plot to destroy democracy. Our read is that NBC emphasized historical continuity. The Hill and Breitbart amplified personal critiques and political paranoia, and Fox News cherry-picked policy doubts, leaving viewers without a cohesive picture of the actual pandemic decision-making context. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with President Trump at the White House amid ongoing Middle East conflicts. NBC News described a high-stakes meeting, focusing on the diplomatic weight of the visit. Fox News broadened the lens to include a meeting with Zelensky, framing it around the Iran and Ukraine conflicts. The Guardian painted a darker picture, suggesting the leaders had to brave the whims of Trump's darkly confounding White House. Axios offered a sharp character assessment, noting a diminished Bibi arrives for his moment with Trump. Our neutral read is that NBC maintained standard diplomatic framing. Fox News usefully contextualized the summit within broader global crises. The Guardian injected editorial skepticism about the host, and Axios emphasized Netanyahu's perceived political vulnerability while leaving the actual policy outcomes entirely unaddressed. Washington gathered to eulogize and remember the late Senator Lindsey Graham at formal memorial services. NBC News and the Associated Press both adopted similar tones, quoting tributes that called him a true American original. NPR remembered him as a tireless Washington mainstay, emphasizing his institutional presence. Fox News took a more personal angle, highlighting a former aide's remark that Graham enjoyed every single second of his Senate tenure. In our read, the left and center outlets uniformly emphasized Graham's bipartisan legacy and institutional longevity, while Fox News leaned into his personal zest for the job, collectively leaving his deeply polarizing political shifts and their lasting legislative impacts completely out of the retrospective narrative. Iran launched a missile attack targeting United States forces stationed in the Middle East. The Guardian framed the event as a thwarted surprise, emphasizing that the U.S. joined forces with Saudis to hit targets in Iraq. The Hill kept its reporting tightly focused on the initial event, describing a surprise attack on U.S. forces. Axios contextualized the strike historically, noting it was the first time Iran launched missiles at a U.S. base since Trump paused prior strikes. Our read is that The Guardian highlighted a regional coalition and active retaliation. The Hill delivered the bare tactical facts, and Axios provided critical temporal context that the others omitted, though none of the outlets deeply examined the immediate escalation risks facing American troops deployed in the region. Whether documenting a Supreme Court petition or a memorial service, the press consistently splits between neutral procedural reporting, optimistic institutional framing, and pointed character critiques, leaving the audience to assemble the full picture. Subscribe for the framing gap.